Hi guys, my name is Abby and welcome back to a new video. So for today's video, it's kind of also like a thrift flip, but instead of taking an old garment of clothing and transforming it, we are going to be using this fitted bed sheet. I found this in one of the Goodwill bins and I washed it, so it's clean. But it was only like $1.25 a pound, and it's definitely less than a pound. So I would say this probably cost me about $1 to buy, and it's probably like just under 2 yards of fabric. And I think it's so pretty and darling, and I thought of the cutest summer dress to make. In my mind, it's like a little halter top, and then the skirt is still a work in progress. I have an idea in my head, but I think it's something that I have to make the top first and then see how much fabric I have left and see exactly if the reality is as nice as the imagination, because sometimes they don't always line up. But I am so excited to make this dress. I do have a beach vacation coming up. My goal is to finish it before then so I can wear it. If not, I still have other opportunities to wear it throughout the summer. But I'm so excited to jump in and make this, so join me as we turn this fitted bedsheet into a gorgeous summer dress.
To begin, I cut the elastic channel around the entire sheet out, as well as cutting open the darts in the corner so that the fabric would lay down flat. The pattern was a one-way, so I had to be extra cautious with how I cut out the pieces by making sure they all went the same way. Starting off with the top part of the dress, I began cutting out the waist part, starting with the center front and then cutting out the side fronts and back. I cut out double of each piece to also make a lining waist part of the same fabric. Once they were all cut out, I sewed them together, making sure that the right sides were together. Since I was still deciding on what to do for the bust part, I moved on to making the skirt. I cut out 2 rectangles that were the length I wanted the skirt to be, and then cut one of those rectangles in half, and then connected each of those halves to either side of the longer rectangle to make one long cohesive strip. After sewing them together, I serged both the seam allowances as well as the side raw edges and the bottom edge, and then using my hand sewing needle, I hand gathered the top edge of the skirt down to fit my waist. Taking my 2 waist pieces, I sandwiched in the top gathered edge of the skirt in between them and sewed it down, with the raw edge being tucked inside once it was flipped the right side out. Tucking in the side raw edge of the skirt as well as the top raw edge of the waist, I sandwiched in the zipper and pinned it down to the length of the skirt. Once the zipper was all pinned and secured, I pinned up the bottom of the skirt below the zipper and then sewed down both that area as well as the zipper to close up the back of the dress. Once the back was all sewn up, I decided that I wanted a tube ruffle along the bottom of the skirt, so I cut out strips of fabric that were the length I wanted the ruffle to be and connected them all together to make a giant continuous strip. Once they were all sewn together, I serged down the seam allowances and the top edge of the strip, and then folded down the top serged edge and sewed it down. Along the bottom edge of the strip, I did a thin rolled hem to tuck in the raw edge so the entire strip had no raw edges. Using my hand sewing needle again, I hand gathered the ruffle down to be the circumference of the bottom edge of the skirt, making sure to gather about 1.5 inches away from the top to make the ruffle a tube. After pinning it to the bottom of the skirt, I used this white lacy ribbon trim to cover up the stitching, making sure to sew down both the right and left side of the ribbon to firmly secure it. With the bottom of the dress all done, it was now time for the bust. I wanted it to be a halter style top with slight gathers around the bottom of the bust, so I cut out a triangle shape that was slightly wider than my bust, and then a long rectangular strip for the tie-up strap. After cutting the straps in half to have a front and back, I connected the strap to each of the bodice pieces, and since this fabric is very lightweight, I used a thicker white cotton for the bust lining. Once the straps were connected, I put the bodice pieces right sides together and sewed them down, leaving the bottom part of them unattached so that I can turn them right sides out. I then top stitched down the bust to help it lay flat, and then it was time to connect them to the skirt. Folding in the top raw edge of the waist, I sandwiched in each of the bust pieces, giving each of them little tucks and darts along the way to give it that gathered effect and to have it fit me properly. Once they were top stitched down, the whole dress was complete and ready to be worn.